Hello, Jason Klamm here. Thank you guys for joining us this week. This episode is one of my favorites. A long-awaited episode for me. Not to rub it in. I know he feels bad about it, but he shouldn't because it was well worth the wait. This is Jimmy Pardo. He wanted to talk about Richard Lewis, I'm in Pain, one of his TV specials, because he didn't really do albums. So this is a lot of fun to talk about. It's different, and it's a necessary exception. It's 1985. This is a time when he would have had a record if he wanted one, but he didn't. So, and it's great. It's fun to listen to. Clips throughout as usual. But I wanted to make sure that I get it out there that Jimmy's Podcast-a-thon is coming up, which benefits Smile Train. It is on November 28th, which is the day after Thanksgiving. It's 12 hours of comedy, and again, it benefits Smile Train, which is a great charity which provides surgeries to children with cleft palates. And on a not charitable note, but something that I wanted to make sure I brought up, is have another podcast called Dan and Jay's Comedy Hour, and my buddy Dan and I have been doing comedy together for 20-some years now, since we were about 13, and we're releasing our first album in a dozen years or more. It's a Christmas album. It's a sketch album called Ho Christmas Tree. All of the albums have Ho in the title because it started when we were young enough that was hilarious. It's still pretty funny, but that's called Ho Christmas Tree, and it comes out the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, November 25th. And it's going to be a free download, so you'll be able to go to stolendress.com and get it there. You can buy the CDs, and it's also going to come packaged as a special limited edition version of the album, which is the smallest comedy album in history. And I mean that. When I say that the smallest, I mean 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter square. It's going to be a micro SD card in a 1 centimeter sleeve. So maybe 1.2 centimeters, but don't hold me to the 1 centimeter thing. So that's a thing. We've got a lot of great guests on it, including past guests on this show. James Urbaniak, Philip Proctor, a number of other wonderful people joining in. And hope you enjoy that. But again, I want to emphasize, Jimmy Pardo's Podcast-a-thon comes up November 28th, 12 hours of comedy to benefit Smile Train. Thanks so much.
You notice he never entertained in the White House during a Republican administration, although the Kennedys always had him. Lyndon Johnson, he was like a toy to Lyndon Johnson. He was like a court jester. And then he could make Lyndon really laugh. And he would just piss himself with laughter. You know? And but Nixon never found Richard that funny. And I'm not sure Jerry Ford did either, although Ford went through all the motions. He tried to just get on the Richard Lewis bandwagon. I think Jerry Ford liked being seen with Richard. Made him look good.
He's volatile. You know, his material has a half-life. You kind of think about it later, and it hits you. It comes back to you. I've seen actually audiences laughing on the freeway because they've seen his show and didn't laugh at the time, but it hits them on the way home. And they respond then. He's gotten many standing ovations when people get to their house.
Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Lewis!
Hi everybody, Comedy on Vinyl podcast. With me this week is Jimmy Pardo.
Hello.
Hi, Jimmy Pardo.
Hello, Jason.
So you wanted to pick. I made an exception this week because we're not doing a vinyl. Although this is weird that I can't find a vinyl release of a TV special that was on 85. 85. So I don't know why I can't find a vinyl release.
I don't think he released any vinyl or CDs until recently.
That just seems
crazy,
counterintuitive
to who he was.
Yeah, 100%. And I mostly listened to it. I just, I found a way to download it because I had to listen to it like a million times to get the gist of it. Because I know Richard Lewis, and I find Richard Lewis very funny, but I don't think I knew 85 Richard Lewis.
Let me say, and by the way, just so that I apologize for my phone.
It's really.
I listened to the Paul Provenza episode. I believe your cat came in at some point.
Yep.
And so my phone buzzing is not as tragic as Paul Provenza murdering your cat. I wanted to do Robert Klein. I wanted to do Robert Klein, either Child of the 50s or Mind Over Matter, or even New Teeth, which is a great album. And you told me that Paul Provenza had just done it.
Yes.
So then I was like, well, who are my other heroes? You know, so my heroes...
You're not the only one.
that want to do Robert Klein?
No, that either. But whose phone is fucking...
Who else want to do Robert Klein?
No, thus far, just you.
Just the phone.
Yep.
So then I was like, you know, I heard, and the reason was, like, Richard Lewis would have always been my first choice, but Robert Klein I knew had vinyl. I knew he had albums,
Sure.
and so I was being true to your program.
Of course. No, that's legit. And the thing about this is, though, like, I mean, what are you supposed to do? 85 is the era of vinyl comedy. It's fine. I think it's just as legit.
Who else was in 85? When was Jackie Mason?
Jackie Mason, probably, but I mean, everybody was real. You know, Eddie Murphy had albums out around that
Stephen
time.
Wright.
Of course, Stephen Wright. Sure.
I Had a Pony. What
Yeah.
year's that? Is that 85?
That's around that time. I don't know. I don't own it. So if I don't own it,
I'm a little concerned. I will say this, Jason. I'm a little concerned about you, and listening to that Paul Provenza.
Go ahead.
Your whole bag is that I'm this comedy nerd. Your word, not mine.
Sure.
I'm a comedy nerd who loves comedy on
Yes.
vinyl. Yet I don't own Robert Klein's Mind Over Matter. Shouldn't you own every comedy album on vinyl?
Go to Dan Pasternak's house and tell me how that's possible on my salary.
Well, you can go to a used record store, and I'm guessing you could find Stephen Wright for $0.25.
Yes.
You could find
Probably.
Jackie Mason for $0.25.
It's not as cheap as you would think. But yeah, comedy's the cheapest vinyl you're going to get. I'm not going to buy everything. I buy it if somebody suggests it. I buy it if I have a particular interest in it. It's got a goofy cover. Robert Klein was a guy who I just knew as Robert Klein. I didn't know his stand-up. I didn't grow up on his stand-up or grow up seeing him on TV. So if you see the guy on TV, your first instinct is, I'm going to listen to this guy. My first exposure to vinyl comedy was Carlin, because my parents had it.
Sure, of
So
course.
I listened to it over and over again. And the
Yeah.
Smothers Brothers. Those are two kind of weird opposite sides of a
Yeah, but again, if you're into comedy, like you said, and you would... when you do that, you sound like Phil Hendry doing Bobby Dooley, going. If you're into comedy, you're buying different. You know, my parents the same thing. They would have the Smothers Brothers and George Carlin, and then Let's Get Small by Steve Martin. I believe my dad and his girlfriend at the time, and then my mom and stepdad. I think they both bought it. So like those influences would come in.
Yeah.
Depending on your parents, because
Sure.
they were buying comedy albums.
How
I
it always
wasn't.
happens. Of course.
At 12.
This would be a shitty podcast if I knew everything about comedy.
Would it?
Is my point. Yeah.
Oh, you want to learn?
Super boring.
You want to learn.
Half of my audience is people. I think half of them are people who already own the albums. The other half are people who want to know something about comedy.
Well,
And while I'm not always the person to teach them, and I can be, there's my guests are always introducing me to new people. But I don't know where I'm going to go from there. We're not interviewing me. God damn it!
I'm fascinated, and it's good conversation. That way, your listeners know more about you, and they know you're a fraud.
Yes, 100%.
So, yes, I wanted Klein. You shut me down in the rudest email I've ever received in my life.
Yeah.
And but actually, then I went to Don Rickles.
Yeah.
Hello, dummy.
Which I was fine with.
And again, because I was staying true to the vinyl. And then it occurred to me that while Richard had never had anything on vinyl, if you would bend the rules and allow us to do the special I'm in Pain, that would really be my bag. Because starting out as a comedian, very influenced by Robert Klein and Richard Lewis, to a lesser extent Paul Reiser, which, Richard Lewis claims that Reiser ripped him off at some point.
Sure.
And I don't buy it.
Yeah.
And I was so influenced by Richard. He's one of my heroes. As is Robert Klein, as is Rickles to a lesser extent, although because of what I do, working with the audience, people brush, I get painted with that.
Of course
You're an insult comic. Not really. Not really.
No, you're just quick.
I'm quick, and I'm in the moment, and I appreciate you saying that. And so I always like to describe myself more as Groucho than Don, even though, again, Don's one of my heroes.
Of course.
Johnny Carson's one of my heroes. And Paul Reiser, growing up, again, I admired what he did, and I think he's great. I think he's a gentleman who has funny in the bones, as I do Richard Lewis. So when Richard said that I think Paul Reiser's ripping me off, as a guy that is a student of the craft, I just don't see it.
Right.
Again, although I've had guys rip me off.
Yeah.
And then other people will go, well, I don't know what you're talking about. So I'm not going to speak. I'm not Richard Lewis. Maybe he feels that way. I don't see it. And but Richard, when I was an open micer, and I just talked about this on my podcast, I'm amazed, having listened to the Robert Kleins again because of your show. I revisited them, and I actually just opened up for Robert at the Improv.
Really?
And which I had done 20 years ago,
Really?
1990. I opened for Robert Klein at Catch a Rising Star in Chicago.
That's fantastic.
He made, I want to say, $300,000 for the gig, and I made $350,000. He might have made $36,000, whatever. I don't know what he made. It's not my business. I just know I made $350,000, and I bombed miserably. And he could not have been nicer to me. Very gracious to me. Complimented me on one of my bits, and then Richard Lewis. I think the same way in that I know early on. I talk very fast.
Sure.
I talk off the top of my head. I deconstruct what I'm doing as a comedian.
Yeah.
And to me, Richard was the first one to do that. I credit, as did Paul Provenza on your show, Klein, and I'll get off Klein in a minute.
That's fine. That's good. Influences are important.
I credit him for the way we do stand-up comedy. He changed it, in my opinion. He went observational before anybody else.
Sure.
In a way that Carlin wasn't doing it, and in a way that the guys, Maury Amsterdam. That's not who I wanted to say, but it was a good save. Buddy Hackett, Jackie Mason, the ba-da-ding, ba-da-ding.
Yeah.
Klein was looking at commercials and joking about it. Something that kind of became hackneyed in the late 80s.
Sure.
But he was doing it in 1974.
Yeah.
My wife, I think I'll keep her. Great stuff. Brilliant stuff. Observational. Some personal stuff about growing up. So I credit Klein for that. Other people argue with me, and they're more than welcome to argue with me. And I credit Richard Lewis for that stream of consciousness.
You can sometimes just gauge that by listening or watching. If you hear the audience and it sounds like they've never heard that before, that means something.
Well, that said, though, you could watch, and I'm not going to throw any names out, but you could you could watch a Hispanic act do something that Freddie Prinze did.
Sure.
But the audience is responding like they've never heard it before.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I am wrong.
No, I don't know. That's... but I hear what you're saying. It's like when you hear those Robert Klein albums or this special that we just watched, the I'm in Pain, which I loved revisiting. So I was glad that you said cool because I love to look back at it, and it reminded me that in '85 I was in my teens and was in the record business, managing record stores, and I was going to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and apparently I wanted to be a comedian. It's like I don't know that I knew that then.
Okay.
And living in that moment, I didn't. But then watching this special again from '85, it was like, oh no, yes, of course I wanted to be a comedian.
Yeah. And
it brought all those memories back. It brought all back of when I snuck in to see Stephen Wright, when I snuck in to see Richard Lewis, Jay Leno, Bobby Slayton, guys in Chicago, and I was underage, and I would go with a guy that was of age,
of course,
and it wasn't as strict back then, of course, with the IDs and stuff, and I guess they presumed if you waited in line for 2 hours to see Jay Leno that you were no underage moron would wait that long.
Right.
I am so incredibly, here, I got to tell you, I just spent about a week with family, and I am absolutely thrilled and delighted to be here in front of strangers. You have no idea. Can't believe it. My mother, she put a satellite dish up. I said, gee, why don't you do the sports? Now, I can't imagine discussing like the pennant race with it. But it was, believe me, it was like, it had to be like a Jewish satellite dish. It picked up problems from other families. It's like... Oh. Gotta breathe. I gotta learn how to breathe. I want to relax. I'm glad to be here. I have pressure. I'm walking to the club. I'm walking to this club. I've been here years. It's unbelievable. I'm just trying to relax. I walk to the club, tippy-toe in, to avoid any kind of anxiety. And, hey, what happens? A car is, like, sort of driving down. There's a guy without his headlights on. So they have these, like, loudspeakers. It's like, Yankee Stadium on top of the car. And the guy goes, or the cop goes, I get confused myself, but I'm into the cop car now. The cop goes, put on your headlights. So, oh, sure. The guy put it on, but he like went over a canyon. It was so counterproductive, you know? And I'm just walking alone. The cop sees me, goes, stop blaming your childhood. He's like, oh, you know, kind of.
Going in, so it was funny to watch, to know that I did all that. And then when somebody says, well, when did you want to be a comedian? It's like, well, I don't know. Well, apparently I knew.
Of course.
And this special, and this speaks to what you said, the Richard Lewis, that audience is responding.
Yeah.
They never seen anything like it.
100%.
They never saw anybody deconstruct what they just said. Mm-hmm. And to watch, there's one guy specifically in the audience who just is tickled by everything that's happening. Mm-hmm. And it's a great... And go ahead. Question. I'm talking too much.
No, you're saying this is how it goes. Keep talking.
So I get basically. I'm saying thank you for letting me, for making me revisit that special.
Thank you for making me watch it.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, it is great. I mean, there's a thing I have to do sometimes if I'm watching something I didn't grow up with, to avoid the feeling, oh, I've seen this before, or oh, this is hackneyed. You have to put your mind in a particular place.
You do.
Because when I listen to the Smothers Brothers, I'm like, I know I've heard this before, but I'm like, I know that audience hasn't. So if you put yourself in that place, so by doing that, by watching this, I'm like, oh yeah, that's why it feels fresh. I could tell why it felt fresh, and I probably watched stand up as a kid with my parents on TV, mm-hmm. and that was the first thing that, because when I'm listening to something and I don't always compare it with the person who's coming on the show to talk about it, but that the speed was definitely the first thing that popped into my head. But I couldn't tell, and I still can't tell how much of that. Like, what of it is scripted? What of it is just a layout? What of it? I have no idea.
I would think, and again, I don't know either.
Sure.
He's a man that brings, that scroll of notes on the piano.
Yes.
And I think he's got, and obviously if you watch more than one show of Richard's, he does the same joke. Mm-hmm. But if he flubs a word, he's going to talk about it, mm-hmm. in the way that I do it, or Andy Kindler does it, Todd Glass does it, of the modern day guys.
Uh-huh.
And, I guess, again, in watching this special from '85, just realize, how influential he was on my career. Mm-hmm. I think we all wanted to be Seinfeld.
Sure.
We all wanted to be the guy that was, in the sport coat with the sleeves rolled up and the skinny tie, and
mm-hmm.
Talking about our day.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure if I pulled out videotapes of my first 3 years in comedy, there's got to be shows where you would go, well, you're doing a Richard Lewis impression, I know it wasn't as an open micer, but
mm-hmm.
I can specifically remember a time I was working in Maryville, Indiana, and my mom and stepfather were there, and my mom actually said, a little too Richard Lewis-y, that show. And she was, and I of course got defensive, but she was right.
That's awesome.
She was right.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, and again, I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
How much is improvised? I would say a lot of it, but I would imagine, not unlike what I do, or Todd Glass, the structure's there, mm-hmm. and you just play around as long as you hit those beats.
You care more about beats than word choice. Am I getting that correct? Or are you a big word choice person too?
I'm a word choice guy. I'm a specifics guy.
Okay.
If I'm, and this is the obvious, and I would hope every comedian would do this. You're not going to say you look like a guy that plays keyboards in an '80s band. You want to go, you look like the guy that in Night Ranger.
Yes, right.
And luckily, that's a bad example because who the fuck wouldn't do that? But you know my point.
I do.
Like you want. Yeah, no, I'm a word choice guy. But I don't write. I don't write jokes.
Okay.
I work everything out on stage.
Okay, but you do then pick something that feels right, and then you play with it.
Absolutely,
okay.
And then I play. Yeah, which I'm guessing Richard does, and I know Louis C.K. does do it. In no way am I comparing myself to Louis C.K. or Bill Burr.
You are wearing a black T-shirt. I should point that out.
Oh, I am. I'm ripping him off now. But. Those guys do the same thing where, they work out the bit on stage, and I think that's the way to do it. There's other guys that don't. Jerry doesn't at all.
I don't understand that. I don't get how he does. I mean, again, I'm not a stand-up, so I don't understand most of it, but I do improv, so I don't understand strictly bidding something out ahead of time,
And just tightening those screws and working it out on paper. It's like, how do you... And I'm sure Jerry will do a joke, and... flypaper didn't work. Sits down the next day. What was that of flypaper?
Yeah.
Which we all do. Like I'll do it on stage, or in what I do, and what I think is the influence from Richard Lewis is if I'm again flypaper, it's like blah 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 flypaper, and then I will comment on. Oh, bad choice. Flypaper might have been the bad choice. Blah, blah probably was the right choice. And then, there we go. Now, you could be that guy that then makes that new choice.
Sure.
Or maybe you make that mistake every single show.
Of course.
And then, isn't that brilliant improvisation?
And I was trying to figure that out, too. And I wish I'd written down examples, but there are a couple spots in the album.
With Richard.
In the special.
Yes.
Where I really felt like he was doing that. Well, that's clearly, no, he's done that mistake before.
I agree with you, but... and again, I apologize for making this about me. I always say what I do. Like when people say I'm going to come to both shows, it's like just come to the one. It's a magic trick, because yes, I do improvise a lot during my show.
Yeah.
But there's other ones that aren't. You know what I mean? That it's like, so he always yells at the guy that wears flip flops. Shower shoes that's a joke he does on a regular basis. You know what I mean? And if they see it once, they're like, I was in the audience when he made fun of the guy with the shower shoes.
Right.
Where it's like, I was at all 4 shows. What a coincidence. 4 guys had a good shower shoes. So, and I think it's the same with Richard. Yeah. It's like, I think that there's some that's, at least on this special in 85, because some of it seemed really organic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I loved about it, I'm curious what you thought. In 2014, if somebody's doing a special, it's in a theater.
Yeah.
There's 2,000 people minimum.
Right.
This was at the Improv on Melrose.
I know.
And I had forgotten that, Jason. Because I have not done it. I've only done a half hour on Comedy Central, 12 years ago, which I'm sure you can download and not enjoy. I'm so much different today.
How was the flip-flops bit back then? That's
very strong. I may have used sandals back then. I always said if I ever did a special, I would actually want it to be in a club and probably shot in black and white. Now, I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
I like it.
But then when this comes out, it's please welcome Richard Lewis, and he walks out, it's the Improv.
Yeah.
Of course it's the Improv.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the laughs stop a foot above his head.
Right.
And the audience is right there. I don't understand comedy in a huge venue. I didn't understand it when Steve Martin did it, and he didn't either, for that matter.
Yeah.
When Dice did it, when Dane did it, and it's too big.
When you have to wait for the delay from a speaker system or see him on a screen, while I get the idea that it's a big event, I don't like. If somebody was has anybody ever done comedy at the Staples Center? Because that idea freaks me out.
What's it? Kevin Hart.
Okay,
Kevin Hart sold out, I think, 3 nights.
Of course he did, but like that place is intimidating and scary, and you feel like you should be there for a gladiator match rather than comedy. And
I'm not saying I'm 5'4". Kevin Hart is 5'2".
Yeah.
So little tiny Kevin Hart at the Staples Center. Where you're supposed to be seeing gladiators or 6'7" basketball players, and there's a guy, and what's he doing? He's talking.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's bananas to me.
Yeah, and the personal, I do like how personal this feels, even though it feels big, like you said, because of the laughs. It kind of feels like a big room.
Yes,
but again, obviously, it's very personal. Do you? Okay, so there's something that's also interesting to me as an incredibly neurotic person as I am. Watching something like this, I'm also incredibly uncomfortable the whole time.
Yes.
Because it's genuine.
Yeah.
I'll 100%. If you ask me, does he have problems that are legit? Yes, he does. Obviously, because the comedy comes from somewhere. But there's some stuff he's intentionally not working on so that he can be really funny.
Yeah.
And I get really uncomfortable watching it. I love it. It's really funny.
And you should go and then watch, I'm Doomed, which I think is the third one.
Okay.
And I'm Exhausted, which is the second one. And if I got those in the wrong order, I apologize.
Doesn't matter.
Equally brilliant. I think one was 88 and then the other one might be 90, which is, 3 solid hours within 5 years, which is, amazing. In my opinion. And again, that's before, Carlin always was doing a new hour every year. Louis does one. But, to me, that's a lot of material in 5 years. But I would say over the years, and Richard was kind enough to do my podcast, and... he's approaching 70. And he's...
God, that's weird.
Isn't that weird?
That's really weird.
And, so what was 85? How many years ago? Was that 35 years ago? 30 years ago.
30 years ago, yeah.
30 years ago. So what was he, 38 at the time? Is he 68 now?
Sounds right.
Boy, he looked great for 38.
Uh-huh.
Let's say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The ill-fitting shirt, the the 80s pants, the hair which he has to this day.
Constantly touching too.
He's just
always just nervous. And I again don't know how much of it's
how much is an act, right? How much is put on? How much is affected?
When I had hair, I'll tell you, I did that kind of shit all the time.
You know what's funny? I worked with a Diana Jordan out in Claremont. I apologize, Montclair, California.
Okay.
At I can remember the guy's name. Adam Berenson owned it. Can't remember the name. Last Stop, maybe. And I had just moved to LA. I was 95, and I was opening for Diana Jordan. And I kept talking about how I'm losing my hair, and she goes, "Well, maybe if you stop pushing it back every 12 seconds, you would keep some of it." And it was like the same deal. It was like all, that neurotic nonsense, which I think is, and you do improv. I think in comedy, you have to have some neuroses.
Oh God! Did you just? I'm sorry. Did I spit? Didn't I? You sure? You swear? I saw the Jarvie come over there. You're in the spit lane. Let's face it. Because I do. I was in Vegas once about 5 years ago, and Wayne Newton was there, and that was unbelievable. My spit was sort of like a little wimpo job. Just sort of. He was like, what a dynamo. I actually dug it. It was like an amazing thing to see. But he was blowing people away. It was like a sand peckerpole. Oh, my God, I've just killed your husband. What should I do? He's so rich. Give him a pony. Give him a pony. Table 3. Give him a pony. And I was trying to get in the way. It was a nadir. I know, it's a low point, right? Why I have to give you 2 words for one? It's frightening. But I was literally trying to get in the way of his spit. It really was a low point for my life. And because he was giving things away. He was giving things away, and he nicked me. He just nicked me. I got like a toaster oven or something, I'm sorry.
Right?
Did you identify with it though too? Was that something that was pulling you in, or was it just this guy's super funny?
Boy, that's a great question.
Because I don't know. Obviously, I don't think that's important for stand-up as much. I'm not identifying with the personality of the person necessarily. I identify with the personality of the things they're saying sometimes, if that makes any sense. That's why I like Carlin so much, because I wasn't Carlin. I was nothing like Carlin. I definitely wasn't like later Carlin, but I still like some later Carlin. So I didn't identify with him.
That later Carlin was a little rough.
Oh, of course.
That's a little rough.
Oh, yeah. That was hard for me. Especially when I grew up first listening to Hippie Carlin. I'm like, oh, that's what this guy is. And I'm like, oh, this is what the other people my age are listening to.
Where do you think it turned?
It was, Dan Pasternak and I were talking about it the other day, and it was shortly after A Place for My Stuff.
That was what it was a kid from New York City. What's the name of that album?
Oh, son of a bitch.
Something like that. Mm-hmm. That was the one where it's like, oh, George has changed a bit.
Yeah,
100%. And by the way, that's okay.
Oh,
he turned 60.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's got different passions and different angers. That's not a phrase, but
he almost died several times.
Right?
It should happen.
So maybe he could, maybe you cut him some slack if he wants to, dig him up. The golf course is dig him up. I was going to say something about.
I'm so sorry, I got us completely off track.
No, I was going to say A Place for Myself was what, 82 maybe?
I think it was 80. Shit, we were just talking about it on a couple episodes ago. 80. Yeah.
I think I was still in high school.
Okay, yeah, so it had to be 80 or 82, around there.
I think so. Mm-hmm. It was that album, Rodney Dangerfield's No Respect.
Uh-huh.
And there was the third one. That I wrote every joke out.
Really?
And I would, I never tried to pretend they were my own.
Sure.
I would go, listen to this album, give me a number. 19. I said to the guy, hey, I got your check. He said, thanks. The Dangerfield great. Like, I would just read the joke.
Amazing.
And,
holy shit.
It was Carlin and Dangerfield. Steve Martin was long before that when I went through that phase. And there was a third one, at any rate.
You wrote them all out.
Wrote them all out?
That's amazing.
Because, I also remember it's the early 80s where there's not the internet. Yeah. There's 3 channels on TV. Mm-hmm. So if you have the money to buy $7 to buy an album, you're living with that album.
100%.
You know what I mean? You're playing it, you listen to your parents.
Sure.
So it's like, what... I've listened to it over and over and over. What's the next step? Well, I gotta write it down.
Of course you do.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
If I'm nerding out on this thing, you know, like I was a fan of Kiss, I drew pictures of Kiss. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I practiced their autographs. I
So fucking good.
whatever the hell I did, you know.
Yeah.
And so that was the same with the comedy albums. It's like, well, what can you do? I can't perform this.
Right.
I'll write it all down.
Holy crap!
I don't know why.
That's amazing, though. I don't know that all comedians are like that, but I'm finding more and more that there are people who have that kind of, and I don't have a good word for it, but that archival sensibility where they want to be fully involved in this thing as much as possible. Whereas if you could have gone, and I don't know why this doesn't exist, if you could have gone to a museum of comedy, just like how much shit you would have just eaten up. Just
Oh, it would have been amazing.
You know, like, but you're making it for yourself because you're like, well, like you said, what else am I going to do? I'll write it down next.
Yeah, it's like that was it. That's all that was left. Mm-hmm. You know, I might have even traced the album covers.
Sure.
You know, which is a ridiculous thing to do. Who needs to do a sketch of Rodney Dangerfield? But those that and it's my mom and my dad that influenced it. But to go back to your question of did I relate to the material? I don't know if I related to the material. I don't think I was neurotic back then. I think as I got older, I got more neurotic.
Sure.
That said, I'm sure if a doctor, he'll debate that. You know, I'm sure that somebody would go, "No, you were nuts." We go into comedy for that reason. I mean, I don't think anybody that had it good in high school goes into comedy.
Right. No. There's no reason for it.
Right? There's no reason for it.
It's either a defense mechanism, which is the typical thing, or it's, again, an amazing escape for you because that's so good to me. I've never done exactly that, but I completely relate to it. But then what that does is like you didn't know you wanted to do. Did you know you wanted to do comedy of some kind? You were in theater school, right? So was comedy of interest to you as a performer?
I guess it was.
Okay.
We found my mom just about 3 years ago she moved. She actually moved from Chicago out here,
really,
about a mile from me, so she could be with me and be with my son and be a great grandma. Mm-hmm. And I was cleaning out my old bedroom, which stuff was still there. You know, I've been gone for 20-something years, but stuff was still there. And so it was like, well, what do we keep, what do we not? And then one of the things we found was a drawing that I did like in 8th grade, and it was of a brick wall, but it can't be the Improv. There's no way it could have been the Improv.
Okay.
Maybe it wasn't a brick wall. Well, a wall.
A wall, okay.
A wall, probably a curtain. Mm-hmm. Now that I think about it, brick wall seems way too... prescient? Is that the word?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, then I'm proud of myself because I have a horrible vocabulary. Fly paper, Night Ranger. It was a picture. It was a drawing, a sketch of a spotlight hitting a microphone in a stand, and then a curtain.
That's awesome.
So one could argue, well, you wanted to be a singer, you wanted to be a crooner.
Right.
I don't think that's what it was, and my mom doesn't either. She's like, oh no, you always want to be a comedian. Mm-hmm. So. And then I recently went to a grade school reunion, and it was one of those things where you want to come back as like, I work on Conan, you mother effers, I'm this, I'm that, and everybody's like, yeah, of course, that's what you did. Yeah, I hadn't seen those people since 1980, so it was like I come walking in, it's like, wait till they get a load of what I do now,
that's fucking
and it was like, well, yeah, what else would you be doing? Yeah, you were the funniest guy in school, of course you're working at Conan. Of course you're in comedy. Mm-hmm. And so I guess, it was always there. To answer your question in a long...
But that's, I don't know. Some people, if I ask that question, it's obviously it ranges. Some people have that experience, and some people, but again, you didn't know necessarily. You had it, you wanted it, but didn't know you wanted it. When did you first start doing open mics and stuff?
I did my very first one right after I turned 21.
Okay.
And I turned 21 in July of 19, and then I'm doing this thing now where I'm saying I'm a lot younger than I am because nobody believes I'm as old as I am.
Sure.
So I'm lying to you.
I think that's fine.
But it was I turned 21 in 87. Mm-hmm. So I started my first open mic was like in August of 87.
Okay.
In Maryville, Indiana, again, and I went up. Thought I had 30 minutes. Ended up being about 7 and fast, but I killed. I remember I killed.
Awesome.
And did a lot of stupid stuff. It took some challenges, took some risks, then I went back. That was on a Sunday night. Open mics were there every Sunday and Wednesday. So I went back on Wednesday, bombed like you wouldn't believe. Went back on Sunday, bombed. Went, you know what? Maybe this isn't for me. And then did a bunch of community theater. And then in '88, my friend Keith, who I worked with at the record store, joined an improv group, or a sketch group.
Okay.
We all went to Players Workshop of Second City at one point.
Oh, okay.
And which was an offshoot of Second City. Which might have been the one that Bill Murray actually studied at. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay.
But we both went to the, oddly enough, he and I both signed up for classes separately. Keith was the manager, I was the assistant manager. And he ended up joining this sketch group called Department of Works. And they needed someone to open for them. And I had done some comedy, and they said, will you open? So I did it. Probably didn't go well. But I met a guy named Tony Boswell who was in that sketch group, and he goes, I really want to do stand-up more than I do sketch. And so we kind of became these two guys that, like, we were a support system.
Oh, that's awesome.
We would go to open mics together. And so from there on, we just would go to as many open mics as we could in Chicago, as many stages as we could on a night. And then March of '89 is when I got my first paid gig. And then in July of '89, I quit my day job.
That's awesome.
So I've been doing it full-time for 25 years.
That's insane.
Yeah.
It seems like you brought up something that I wasn't sure was going to come back up again, and that's like that support system is so important. It seems like probably a good reason you went into community theater. It's easier to bomb with a bunch of people around you than on your own.
Yes.
Right. And at least if you've got somebody waiting in the wings, it feels like there's somebody on stage with you.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
It's and so when I met Tony, and we're still friends to this day. We're still in the same fantasy baseball league together, and he lives on the East Coast, and I can't tell you where because I'm a narcissistic asshole who, if I ask him, hey, now where do you live? One more time, it's really gonna look like I'm an idiot. So, we started in Chicago, but without Tony, it would have been, we would go and we would bomb together, we would kill together. We ended up making other friends, who I'm friends with to this day: Jimmy Dore, Mike Siegel, Pete Schwaba, Pat Francis, Paul Gilmartin, some other people that I met throughout the years. But those were the core guys. But it was me and Tony, and we would talk every day. I was still working at MCA Records, and I would go into my office, and I'm supposed to be making calls to my clients about, hey, do you want to buy the new Little River Band album? And hey, we're shipping the Fine Young Cannibals. Supposed to be doing that. Instead, I was on the phone all day with Tony, talking about what booker we're going to contact, and that, where are we going tonight? Hey, let's hit this one first, then go there. By the way, it was the same conversation every day.
That's amazing.
For hours. And but we had each other, and without that, and by the way, I don't know if I ever admitted it to him or myself until this very moment. I don't know if it would have been that easy. It wasn't easy.
Sure.
But it was still like I knew, because going to an open mic for the first time is really, really scary.
Yeah.
And people always ask me all the time, I always wanted to get into comedy. What do I do? It's like, you just got to do it.
100%. Yeah.
And people, and I know, I think Prevenzi even talked about this on your show, and other comics. Lori Kilmartin just posted it on Twitter. She said, my advice that always disappoints people is just do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the truth. Like everybody thinks there's, if you want to take a class, take a class.
Sure.
I'm not an anti-class guy. Remember when I said I wasn't going to talk as much as Paul Prevenzi?
Yeah, I do. I'm glad you are.
I apologize.
It's good. No, it's I don't have that much to say.
If you, I don't know if I'm steamrolling or not.
No.
If I am, I apologize.
I'm not being sarcastic. I literally don't have that much to
Well,
say.
then by all means, start a podcast. If you need a class to get your nerves up, take it. In my opinion, a lot of comics are down on classes.
Yeah.
I don't think you can teach funny ever. You either have it or you don't. You could teach formula.
Sure.
You could teach joke writing, but no, you can't teach what Richard Lewis does.
I've been all over, and it's just really, it's really amazing to me. Comedy is really, all of a sudden I'm doing a lecture at Hunter College. I don't know what happened to me. Oh, I know why. I know why I was doing that. I was doing this gig up in Maine about a month ago, and I got freaked out because, some gigs are a nightmare. Some gigs are gigs from hell, and I walked up in the afternoon, I see my sign, and it was off near Maine. It was near Maine. And had tonight, Richard Lewis and King Crab. I went, King Crab? I was on the bill with King Crab. I said, maybe it's like some kind of rock group. I saw maybe guys, saxophone guys coming out. But that was it. I was on with the entree. That was the whole trip. And I walk into the club, and the people go, "Hi, do we get to the waitress? Do we get French fries with the comic or not? We're not sure, you know." I'm doing my gig, not doing well. It was a nightmare, quite frankly. There's about 30 people there. In the middle of my act, it's right on the inlet or a sand with a bay. Who cares at this point? I hate the place. But a guy runs in from the back of the club wearing like a yellow raincoat, a slicker, whatever, and he screams out, "The tuna is biting!" And the entire audience
You know, to get back to the man that brought us to this conversation, you can't teach. Can you teach what Seinfeld does? Maybe. You won't be as good as him, but you could certainly go, you know, what don't I like? I don't like when I lose a sock. You know, what happened to the other sock? You know, and then you tighten those screws.
Yeah.
But I think you got to have it in your bones. You got to have the right mind for it. But if you need that class to get the nerve to do it, take the class.
I see. Yeah.
Otherwise, you just got to do it. And man, it is. Especially when you're brand new and you go to the open mic and you don't know if the other guys, it could be somebody else's first time, it could be somebody else doing it for 9 years working on new material.
Yeah.
They all certainly know each other, at least these 5 guys know each other, and you're the outsider sitting there by yourself hoping somebody talks to you. Yeah. Then when they do talk to you, you want to be funny so that they know you're funny, and then of course that never works. You're not, because you're forced and it's awful, and they think, why is that guy on? So it's rough. So without Tony, it would have been, at least we had each other to push each other and, at least, hey, I'll see you there.
Right.
I know you're going to be there. So, it made it more comfortable. And then, obviously, I'm great. So I made friends easily.
Of course, yeah. People, I think people get disappointed with that answer because, well, show business seems magical to people for one. But for two... if they've seen you 5 times and they like you every time they've seen you, they think you're worthy of asking this question. I think their concept of it was that you hopped into it, were successful immediately. That's always the concept, whether they realize it or not.
Right.
That, you've been good the whole time. You've been successful the whole time. I mean, obviously, you did get to quit your day job 25 years ago. That's fucking great. You are a good guy to ask. But the assumption is that you've got a magical formula.
Right.
And it's so hard.
But by the way, let's be very clear. I should not have quit my day job. I was making $100,000 as a 23-year-old.
Jesus Christ.
Working for a record company. You know what I mean? It probably was 60,000 plus bonuses, but whatever. That's still an insane amount of money.
Especially in
the 80s?
Right.
That was great. So when I walked away from that and to do comedy, first of all, my boss, I wasn't doing my job. And my boss said, he called me, and a guy named Jim, who was a good guy. It looked like Kirk from Dear John. Specifically that character that Jerry Burns did. So much so that, it was back in the day where, everybody watched whatever was on television. So when we came in the next day, it's like, did you see Dear John last night? This new show? It's Jim! Jim's on that show. So he called me in his office and he's like, look, it's obvious you're not doing your job. So you have to make a decision. You want to keep working here, that was the brass ring for me.
Sure.
I'm working at a record company. I'm hanging out with rock stars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm going to concerts for free. I'm getting music for free.
And music is your other love.
That is my other love, yeah. So he goes, or do you want to be a comic? And by the way, they had all just seen me perform. And I had bombed miserably.
Oh, shit.
They all were there. So he goes, or do you want to be a comedian? You have to decide. And I was like, okay, I'll tell you tomorrow. Which was like, he couldn't believe that I was even taking a day to tell him, well, of course I'm going to stay here with my job. So the next day I came in and I quit. And I said, I'm giving my notice. And he's like, oh, okay. All right, very good. And then at the meeting, at our morning meeting, he said, okay, well, first things first, Jim let me know this morning that he's quitting. He's going to pursue stand-up comedy. And the silence in the room was deafening. It was crazy about how they weren't wrong. They had to be thinking, what the fuck is he? He's horrible. He's horrible. We were there. 12 of us came to support him, and he didn't get a laugh. I mean, it was one of those, when I came back to the office, nobody talked about it. Yeah. No eye contact for a day. Like maybe we'll all forget it happened.
Yeah.
It was at a place called the Barn of Barrington, and I bombed miserably. And so, but then I quit. But I shouldn't have. I should have stayed at that job, done my job better, and then still hit the open mics.
Sure.
And gotten better before. But
you're more resilient that young, though. At the very least. Had you been twice that age and quit, First of all, it would have looked a lot sadder to see.
Oh, are you kidding me?
No, I mean, and any wife worth her salt would have divorced you.
Of course.
So at least it's a better time, I suppose. But
I guess so.
What you're saying. I do.
I
understand
was
what
also
you're saying.
very young at that job. I was 23 years old, working
insane.
in the record business, and I got brought in to do a job that I wasn't necessarily even qualified for. So people that were had started in the mailroom and were working their way up were resentful of me. So that was a tough job. So comedy was a great outlet for me to, instead of eating my emotions, I was working about doing comedy. As opposed to dealing with, hey, nobody here likes me. Not that's not fair, but
I know what you're saying.
some did not.
What kind of comedy were you taking in? Was it just the stuff that you saw at clubs, or were you buying albums and stuff?
Oh, I was still buying albums. I was trying to be, but then I realized though, and this kind of contradicts what I was saying about remembering that I was lettuce for a hairpiece. It dawned on me that I'm absorbing too much of that. I have to not do that. I have to be true to who I am. But what I ended up doing, I was a great open micer. And I speak on this a lot whenever I get interviewed and I run my mouth. I was a great open micer, and people loved watching me as an open micer. I was very experimental, everything off the top of my head, everything improvisational. Wasn't all good,
sure,
but at least I was taking chances.
Yeah.
Then the second I started getting paid, it was like, well, now I have to take this very seriously.
Sure, of course.
And I then started writing an act, and as I like to say, I worked very, very hard to be an average comedian.
Okay, yeah.
Probably not even average. I wasn't good, but I was derivative of Seinfeld. I was derivative of Paul Reiser. Again, probably the Klein influence, the Lewis influence, all of that. I wasn't me. I was me as an open micer.
Yeah.
Once I started getting paid, I was like comedian 101,
Yeah.
And so I would listen to these albums, and I realized, I'm not being me anymore.
Yeah.
I'm kind of just being a comedian. And then enough people told me, you're the funniest guy off stage. Contrary to this blowhardedness I'm doing today, once you find that on stage, you're going to be great. And I was like, but I know what I'm doing on stage.
Of course.
I'm getting paid. I quit my day job.
Of course.
How dare you say I'm not me? And then eventually it clicked. In 92 into 93, it clicked. Somebody said it the right way.
Yeah.
And I was at the Broad Ripple Comedy Club in Indianapolis, and the week went the 29th, 30th, 31st of December. We were off on the 1st, and then I think we came back on that Saturday, the 2nd, or something like that.
Sure.
I threw the act away.
Jesus.
In 92, I just you know what? I'm going to go back to what I did as an open micer. I'm going to improvise on stage. I'm going to make it up as I go.
Yeah.
I'll find the funny or I won't find the funny. And I struggled for a while doing that. I had great shows or I had horrible shows. And I know I became angry. I became a little Dennis Leary-ish. I got 2 words for you. Fuck you. That kind of bullshit, trying to find the funny, having the anger. Bill Hicks was an influence at the time. Not at all anymore. But at the time, in the early 90s, Bill was doing something nobody else was.
Of course. Except for Dennis Leary.
Except for Dennis Leary, who was doing... but I like Dennis Leary stuff, too.
I do, too. It's an easy joke.
It is an easy joke. And are there way too many similarities? Yes.
Yep.
But Dennis delivered them differently than Bill. I liked a lot of what Dennis was doing. I loved that. When I found Bill Hicks Dangerous on cassette, I remember quoting it to Paul Gilmartin on a golf course. We were golfing. And I go, have you heard Bill Hicks yet? And he's like, no, I'm not. And I started quoting the thing about, I remember, Dick Clark, fucking the skull of Dick Clark or something like that. And on the golf course, and he kept on going, you're a little loud. You're being a little loud. And, but then, not that I discovered Hicks, he had a cassette out.
Of course.
But it was then the next day, Bill Hicks was just like the hero to all comedians.
Yeah.
And he was still great. But my interests changed.
Sure.
And, but I still was buying. To answer your question, yeah, I bought the Bill Hicks cassette. Yeah. I bought Robert Schimmel's first album on cassette, which is I'm not a huge fan of dirty material. I'll swear,
of course,
do a jerk off joke. I'll make jokes about having a threesome with a couple or whether men, women, whatever the shit it is. But Schimmel one could argue, is a dirty comedian. But that hour is brilliant. You want to talk about words, word choices, structure. Structurally, that is a brilliant hour of comedy. That first album is that I can't think of the name of.
Okay.
New Car.
I'll have to look it up. All right.
I remember I gave it to my stepfather, and I said, this guy is my new favorite guy. And I gave it to him, and I said, did you listen to that cassette, Ron? And he goes, a little dirtier than I anticipated. But there's great jokes on there.
Yeah.
He's great, yeah. So he's dead now, of course, God rest his soul, but he was a great comic.
My family, my mom, I sort of love her, but things don't change. I go back to her house. It's wild to me. She has this cleanliness thing that I have now, unfortunately. The dog, before it killed itself, she made this dog wipe its paws off before it came to the house. Just to me, it's sad. The dog got so nuts, it developed like a little nervous cough before it barked. It was sad. It was sad to see it. The dog used to go, I hate to see it. So I get to her house and she's vacuuming the front lawn. I don't understand it. How does she have a Hoover with a garden attachment? Where does she find this thing? And everything smells. Everyone smells. Why not? I once bought her Airwick earrings. So every room, every place she went was cool, She had a cottage cheese problem. She had to smell cottage cheese in the stores. I could see if you're home alone, okay? You smell. But she went right to that dairy case. It was like, but she was a big shot, quite frankly. Everyone knew because she knew. I really respect her for this because she knew when they were jerking us around. Because in that dairy case, they put the crap up front. You have to make a complete fool of yourself because you open the case and the cottage cheese has on the bottom hello from Ike, on the front there, You have to get the guy from the Atomic Energy Commission with isotope. I'm going to get what I deserve, you bastards. You can't. It's impossible. So she knew that, but she was, she made a fool of herself there. I mean, she would smell everybody's cottage cheese and said, no, don't get this one. Go back further. She had pictures on Safeway stores with like this and like this, like FBI things.
Do you have a favorite bit on the Richard Lewis album? I mean, is there, or is it just as a whole? I keep calling it an album, I'm sorry. But on a whole, do you just like it? What is it about it that you love so much?
I think I think it's the fact that it's this magic trick that it looks like he's coming up with it off the top of his head. Which everybody thinks comics are doing anyway.
Of course.
But I think, again, going back to what we said, I think Richard was. Some of it.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, again, if you think about it, he's shooting a special. And if he did improvise a lot of that, that's ballsy on a special.
Of course.
Of course, it was Showtime in '85, so
yeah,
who's watching?
Right.
But at the same time, I would have done a dance around the world. I'll do one tomorrow if they want to give me a special. But do I have a favorite bit? The satellite dish getting problems from other people's families. Again, I'm badly mutilating these bits.
That's the other thing too. They're not easy to do for somebody else.
No, they're not,
because they're all him.
And I'm there. I go. When he does the thing about the dry cleaner, I like that. That's right. Now I'm trying to do a plant. I'm doing and then he's talking about positioning the employees of the dry cleaner, and then the payoff is nothing. And he goes, all that for that, and he goes, but it doesn't matter. It over there, and yeah, you really can't do it, can you? You really can't.
I was thinking about that. I'm just like, I love this bit. I'm not going to remember it. I remember how it feels. I remember the thing he's talking about.
Right.
Maybe. But yeah, it's not, because it's so free-flowing, it's really hard to nail it down.
It really is. It's like, I watched it again, and I was laughing out loud, which is, as a jaded, although I do like to laugh. I'm a comic who likes to laugh.
Sure.
I'm not the guy in the back room going, oh, it's funny. I'm not that guy at all. If it's funny, I'm going to laugh.
Yeah.
But I was on the couch in my home, alone, laughing out loud at some of these bits. Sadly, now I can't tell you any of them, mainly because I'm 97 years old and I don't have a memory anymore. But because of that reason, it so flows so beautifully that... I
wonder if there's any fear on his part, though. I mean, he might not care about it. But some people... arguably most people in entertainment are very worried about a legacy. They're worried about making it check to check. I understand that too.
Yeah.
But legacy is a thing. And in comedy, legacy doesn't depend on, but is definitely helped by something like quotability. Monty Python wouldn't be around, they wouldn't be as strong if nerds weren't constantly
You're right.
quoting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
there's some power to that.
To that, Richard, coined From Hell.
This is what I was reading. Is that true?
Yes.
That's 100% true?
There's no doubt in my mind.
Because he says it about 20 times in this special.
Yes. It was the thing from hell. It's the thing from hell.
Yeah.
She's got lipstick from hell,
Yes,
and then the lipstick goes on. It's on somebody's house. And he does the act out, and it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was I remember in the '80s, nobody was saying it, and then Richard Lewis was saying it,
so
and then
weird.
we all were saying it.
Yeah.
Well, there's another one that he says, quite frankly. That's what it is, quite frankly. And he says that a ton.
Yeah.
And there's a third one that he says a ton.
Mm-hmm.
It's frightening. It's frightening. Is that what it is?
It might be. He does say that a lot. I mean, it's just so weird to me. I guess, again, there's where my perspective is skewed. I'm picking up comedy from a point where when I started listening and watching comedy, it was already a thing.
Yeah.
The concept, it's so evocative that I'm sure it's been used in marketing and titles and this and that, left and right. So I guess I can understand why he'd be pissed. But he does get a little ticked off about it. And
I think he does.
Why. I can see why. Although at the same time, it's not a bad legacy.
Nope.
At least it's an undercurrent.
But I don't think people know it was him.
They don't know that, right.
And I think it was also at a time where you didn't think to, like I'm sure Larry the Cable Guy has, trademarked Get Her Done.
Oh, I'm sure he has.
Whereas Richard probably in 1980 or whenever he started saying it, we heard it in 85.
Sure.
But he's got that great short film that he did on SNL, Diary of a Young Comedian, which is, damn it, is that wonderful. That is just brilliant.
Yeah.
He might say it there once or twice, maybe. I'm not going to, I'm not 100% sure. I haven't seen that in years, but I'm sure he didn't think in 1981, I should trademark From Hell.
Right.
Because it's going to take off.
Sure. I mean, it's hard for me because I'm one of those people who would rather, and I'm not him, so I can't say this. I'm not the man with that career. I'm not the man with the thing that took off and became its own fucking thing. But, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just completely stammering here, but it's a very interesting thing because I just finished a documentary about a very similar concept where somebody invents, their invention of it gets completely washed away, but it's still something that people love or use and enjoy, and it's just a part of the undercurrent of their culture. And that should be satisfying, you would think. But again, I am an entertainer, so I do understand why it isn't.
Yeah.
I understand wanting credit for it. But there is something to be said for just, letting people have it.
Well, that's true. But again, as you pointed out, as you're watching him perform in 1985 as a young man, or 38 years old, however old he is in that special, that guy's not going to let it go. You know what I mean?
No,
that guy, even I think it's either on I'm Exhausted or I'm Doomed, where he goes, I'm making this up. It was the day from hell. I feel like I'm stealing from myself at this point. He even acknowledges that it's become something and that he's now uncomfortable saying it because it almost looks like he's joining the lexicon.
Yeah, no, that makes sense too. But then the other thing is, I wonder is it an invention or is it just his personality that the man's going to say that a lot? We all have those things that we say, and quite frankly. And I'm sure, I know I say that a lot, and if it's because of him, thank you, Richard Lewis. But it's one of those things where it becomes part of your personality. So if it's an invention, that's one thing. But if it's just who you are, it caught on because of who you are.
Sure,
they're further compliments.
But and you're exactly right. The further compliments, like the fact that From Hell caught on from a comedian, like even Get Her Done, is done. No pun intended, because there wasn't one.
100%.
But you know what I mean? It's gone. It's still there, and his audience still loves it.
Sure.
But it's not really a thing anymore. No. From Hell is still around, and we got it from a comedian.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing I love about Richard Lewis is, yes, he had that sitcom with Jamie Lee Curtis in the 80s and maybe even early 90s. He's done some acting. He's great in that movie Drunks. He's a terrific actor, but you know him as a comedian, and I love that. Like Brian Regan, Brian Regan's a comedian.
Yeah.
Bill Burr's done some acting, and probably will do more acting. But right now, Bill Burr as a comedian.
Sure.
Louis, as this TV. Not you. I'm saying you understood.
But I am in there too. So yes.
But you know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
But these guys who and George he just became legendary, George Carlin.
Sure.
you knew them as a comedian. Robert Klein, and I think, like what you said a little bit on your episode, you didn't really know him as a comedian.
Right.
You knew him as Robert Klein.
Yeah, he was a presence.
Yeah.
More than anything else, which is very weird to me.
Right?
Now knowing his work.
And then to think that he was so influential
Yeah.
to a lot of us.
Yeah. That was the other thing, too, is, I mean, just to skip back to that album a lot, is it's still, fresh isn't the right word, but so solid that it's undeniable. And that's why I really liked doing that, and I'm looking forward to listening to, like, Child of the 50s and the other ones, too. But
his one that came out in 1990, I think, is a little... He was going through a very angry time.
Okay.
Robert Klein, now we're talking about.
Yeah.
For the listener. So that album is, it's got Making Love in the 80s, AIDIES, is one of the, because he always has a song on his albums, because he's a song and dance guy, more of a song guy. And he's great in They're Playing Our Song, a great Broadway show, off-Broadway show. He's great in that. I think that's with Lucy Arnaz. Is that right? That's not right? Anybody? It's not Lorna Luft. Who's Liza Minnelli's sister?
Sister?
Is it Lucy Arnaz?
Wait. Oh, yeah. No. Lorna Luft, yeah, is her sister. Yeah.
It's not her, though.
Okay.
Then I'm way off.
I don't know. I don't know.
It might be Lucy. Who gives a shit? Anyway, he's great in it. And so, Robert always would do this, work music into his act and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that album in 90, I think he was going through a horrible divorce.
Okay.
I think. Mm-hmm. And so the album's a little... It's not the brilliant 74, 75, 76 albums that he put out.
Yeah.
It's good, but it's not that.
God, my grandfather was 7 years older than I was. I was 5, he was 75, I was 10. He was, kept going up like that. He was very consistent about that. And he's a depressed guy. He left his grief to science, which I felt was like a major thing. He used to sleep like this. It was said. He used to go, "Oh, I'm a failure. I'm a loser. I'm nowhere." And he wore his pants up to his neck. This is what I didn't understand. That was what I thought a man was. His pants were over here, so his arms came over here, his balls were hanging over here, his eyes were here. Who was he? Who was this man? And he had breath from hell. It was frightening. We all have bad breath, but he was like, he could wipe out like a nation. It was frightening. And you could be in the greatest mood, and as soon as Grandpa would talk to you, it was over. I go, "Oh, I got a great prom day. Oh, how you doing? Oh, but I don't have a goal. I don't know what I'm going to do after I get out of school." And he passed away, and I had to leave like after death mints on the grave, and I was like,
And he might be one of those people. There are some stand-ups where you can you get the impression that you get more of the obvious impression that their world is colliding with their comedy, whereas again, Richard Lewis is a guy whose world and his comedy seem inseparable.
It's all there, right?
Yeah. So maybe you can give me an idea of the albums that follow and stuff. Is it basically this? Like, does it feel the same way?
It feels this a year later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It feels like I worked with Richard, and I cannot pull the year. It was in Columbus, Ohio, and it was one of those deals where I was headlining everywhere. Mm-hmm. For some reason, the Columbus Funny Bone wanted me to prove I could headline.
Oh, okay.
So they were like, "Well, why don't you headline Tuesday, Wednesday, and then it'll be a two-man show, you and Richard Lewis." Done.
Yeah.
I'm in. I don't care. I'm in.
Oh my God.
And it's probably 10 years ago now, maybe even longer. I don't remember exactly. And I sat in the back and watched every show. Mm-hmm. I watched every show. And he was working on a new act, maybe for a special. I don't know what he was doing. And he had some rough shows, and he had some great shows.
Yeah.
And the rough shows were by design because he's trying stuff out. Mm-hmm. But I sat there. I sat in the back and watched every one of them. Never more honored to open up for anybody, And I've opened up for, like I said, Klein, and I opened for Reiser early on in my career. Rickles doesn't have an opener, or else that would be a thrill too.
Right.
But to finally open up for Richard Lewis and be on that same bill was one of the most exciting things in my career,
of course.
And we had very little interaction.
Mm-hmm.
But I spoke very honestly on stage every night. But long-windedly, to get into your answer, it was still 1985 Richard Lewis, but through the 2005 mouthpiece.
But it felt correct, right? It felt right.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I have to
absolutely. Yeah.
And I wonder if that's being true to himself or being true to a thing he created.
I think it's true to himself,
Yeah.
and that's and I'm going to, having grown up in Chicago and listening to two other heroes of mine, Steve Dahl and Gary Meyer, who were radio guys, and they were doing quote unquote shock jock stuff before anybody else, and I mean before anybody else. Richard was a regular guest on there. Whenever Richard would come into town, because he worked Zanies a lot, Richard, in the I want to say the late 70s and 80s. He worked Zanies a lot. So he was a guest on which he was a guest with Steve and Gary, and that was Richard. You know what I mean? Yeah. Richard on the radio was Richard on stage. Yeah. Was Richard on panel for Letterman. Yeah. Was that Richard? And then when he eventually did my podcast, and I think we did an hour and a half to 2 hours together. That was Richard Lewis. And
awesome.
it's a calmer Richard Lewis.
Sure.
But it's still that's him. And one time when he was calling to confirm doing my podcast, because he's an older guy who they still use the telephone.
Sure, of course.
And I go hello, and he goes hello. Who the fuck? You don't say hello. That's what you say to your fucking hero, or something like it. It was like yes, that's exactly what Richard Lewis would say to me. Like it was perfect. You know what I mean?
Holy shit.
Yeah, I don't know. Did he say hero? I feel like I'm ripping off myself because I always call myself people's hero. So maybe now I'm stealing from me. Whatever he said, it was something.
That's amazing.
Along those lines, it was great.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I'm an old man. Don't toy with me. I know he said that.
And I'll bet he loves that. Anything that adds a layer that you can complain about when that's the kind of comedy you do. That's fantastic.
Right?
Oh, it's amazing.
Yes.
I mean, just the amount of leverage you can get out of breaking a bone. Anything.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, he's and I think underappreciated.
Yeah.
As weird as that sounds. As much as we just said From Hell became something.
Right.
I don't think a lot of comics will say Richard Lewis is one of the best.
They're not.
And I think he's, he's in my top 5.
It takes things like this, though, like an interview like this, to sort of bring me back around on it. Because I wouldn't have thought Richard Lewis. Because didn't watch his specials as a kid. I must have seen something like it. I know I watched the sitcom because my parents watched endless amounts of TV. But it does take stuff like this sometimes to remind me. And I mean, like, a lot of comics that I meet, sorry I brought this up on the podcast a bunch, but a lot of the younger comics I meet, and when I say younger, I mean like my age, they don't know, like I asked about a comedy album, screw vinyl, they didn't listen to any comedy albums growing up. And again, maybe that's TV, maybe that's I just downloaded random shit that sounded cool, because and I relate to that, but that's how I discovered more stuff. I discovered Lenny Bruce because I could steal his albums, so that's how I learned what Lenny Bruce was. So,
and a guy your age enjoyed Lenny Bruce.
Yeah, I did. Of course I did. There's a bit I still can't find it. I'm actually hunting down, and I don't know what album it's in. I'm going to ask Dan Pasternak because I'm sure he knows. He owns every album that's ever existed.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I completely love it, and I related to it.
Great.
Yeah, especially his bit about how to, and I'm going to use a word we don't use anymore, how to make your colored friends comfortable at parties. One of my favorite things ever.
Really?
Yes. He just says, "How about that, Joe Lewis? Hell of a fighter." That's it. Just and it's a thing that people have done since a million times. I thought he did brilliantly. Anyway, but yeah, it is weird. Like the comedians that some people I might ask to be on the show were like, I didn't listen to any comedy albums.
They didn't listen to any comedy. Yet they got into comedy.
Yeah. So I don't know where the influence comes from. Again, maybe it's just TV. Maybe TV was so prevalent that it. But was for me too. I mean, my mom was raised on television, so my mom was raised a lot on TV. I was raised on TV, but I still had this desire. I had to listen to these things.
Right.
Something drew me. Again, I'm not doing stand-up, but something drew me as like, this is a thing I have to listen to.
Sure.
So, same reason I watched Citizen Kane at 10. Didn't understand it, but I'm like, from what I understand, I'm supposed to watch this.
Right.
So just sheer curiosity about that made me listen. So it does kind of blow my mind.
It blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because is it... again, I can only speak from my experience, but it was, we all watched Saturday Night Live and went to school Monday morning and talked about it.
Right.
If we saw a comedian on Carson the night before, we all talked about it. Or at least I talked about it with the teachers. Because if there was a comic on, my mom would let me stay up to watch the comic.
That's awesome.
which was great. Which is how I discovered. She discovered Steve Martin before anybody, in my opinion. My mom,
that's awesome.
Obviously not. He was on the Tonight Show,
of course, but
she was like, "You got to watch this guy. He's amazing. I'm now going to balance my nose on this microphone." And she would tell me about it, and then one night I'm in bed, and she woke me up, and she goes, "That guy I was telling you about's on."
You live with family your whole life. Like, apparently, I moved out here. I left the family, and I live in a predominantly anxious section of town, in Santa Monica. I don't know. I see these people around my apartment. They have kids. Gee, I'm in my 30s now. I always try to. Gee, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna have a child? I'll be like one of these old pops. It depresses me. Like, I'll get married in 10 years, and she'll have a career, have a kid. Maybe I'll be 63. He'll be in Little League. I'll be 111. And it's ridiculous. I'll be 111 when he's in Little League. They'll have to wheel me in like a glass bubble. It makes me depressed. Your son's bunting, Mr. Lewis. Give me my bun pill a minute. I just got. And I feel stupid. I don't know enough. I don't want to die yet. I don't know anything. I had this dream of being on the deathbed. I have to be surrounded by pals who have to just give me as much info as fast as possible. Otherwise, I'll feel like an idiot when I die. Like, well, what's racket pigeon steering? But on the other hand, you get to this point, if you're a man or a woman, as if I had to, describe how many genders there are, you get set in your ways. I'm eccentric. I know I can't imagine having someone want to live with me now. I can't imagine lying in bed with someone and she'll say, "It's 2 a.m. Where are you going?" "Oh, I know. It's 2 a.m. I have to skip to my loo." I mean, who's going to want to put up with this, at this point? But, yeah. I don't know.
And then I watched him, and then, a guy named Pete Barbuti, who was just, I think he lives in Vegas now, was a guy who, I don't think I have anything in common with comedically. But I remember as a kid loving Pete Barbuti, loving him.
He's got a great name,
right? Mm-hmm. Pete Barbuti. Are you kidding me? But he would take out a broom and hit the broom on a microphone.
I've seen that,
and I forget what the bit was, but I remember loving it. And it was the same deal. If I saw in the TV guide, and comedian Pete Barbuti, I would sit through Angie Dickinson and Joe Namath and a third lesser guest to watch Pete Barbuti.
It's amazing.
So I think maybe your generation, or even younger, Comedy Central's there.
Sure.
So they don't have to buy albums.
Right.
And I know that's exactly what you just said, but because of television, but to me it just clicked that for me it was Carson and then eventually Letterman watching the comics on there. Leno, what's my beef tonight, Jay? Dave? Which my cousin Scott and I talked about, what's my beef? Jay Leno was like, "Did you see him? He came out and he rode his motorcycle out." And then now that I work at Conan, that was prepared 3 weeks before that. Hey, Jay's gonna ride his bike out. Can we do that? Well, I gotta get a license. We gotta get permission. Blah blah blah. Right. Whereas to us, it's like he rode his motorcycle on the stage and then sat down and was interviewed. So for us, that was the outlet for comedy. Yeah. And then if you wanted more, it would go into the library and. Taking the comedy albums out.
Yeah.
And which I remember getting that Johnny Carson one. That best of.
I think we're going to be doing that one soon, actually.
And then, eventually buying them.
And
yeah.
It's so good. Actually, that's something, too, that's come up more often than not, and I don't know if I guess it's now CDs, of course, but that, comedy albums are still available at those things that still sometimes exist called libraries, so people should not forget that. I like to point people in directions where they can find this shit.
Right.
If you feel bad stealing it, which I didn't when I was 20 because I was an asshole, but, go to a library. If you're desperate, go to YouTube, because sometimes I have to do that if I can't find it in any other way.
Is that true?
Oh, yeah, because YouTube, if especially if it's something super rare. If it's something I can't buy, YouTube is...
So somebody will upload...
an entire album or entire tracks.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Don't search for your name, because who knows? Maybe it's happened.
I don't do that because I don't want to read the comments.
Oh, no. Smart man.
So I don't.
Eventually you get numb to it. No, you don't.
No.
I'm kidding. I'm lying.
No.
I'm lying.
Right?
It's the
worst.
And everyone. Yeah, no, it is horrible. That's a long story for every other podcast in the world.
You're right.
But, okay, so if you're going to condense maybe into a sentence or two why somebody should seek this out, if they've never... let's just be honest, not enough people know who Richard Lewis is somehow.
Somehow.
So, Why seek it out? What's important
again,
about it?
because I think not unlike Carlin or Seinfeld or Klein, influential into what guys like me and Todd Glass and Andy Kindler, Paul F. Tompkins even though Paul's more of a structure wordsmith, but he'll improvise better than any of us.
He's
one of the top 5 funniest men on the planet, and he needs more pubs, so I'm glad I got it out for him. But he, that deconstructing of what just happened wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And for that reason, to go back and watch this from '85 and see a guy doing it when you think that, again, I saw Andy Kindler deconstruct the deconstruct. And he's like,
Jesus
right.
Christ.
And he's great. And he's great and brilliant.
That's amazing.
I like to think I'm decent. Todd Glass. Richard was doing it before any of us.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, people should go and investigate these specials.
And the thing is, too, once it became a thing, like all things that catch on, being meta and being self-referential can eventually get driven into a fucking hole.
Oh,
People
boy.
don't know what they're doing. It becomes shit.
The guys that don't know what they're doing, that are doing it, it's like, with as much crowd work as I do, which is not what Richard does. It's not, that's me. I'm off the top of my head and crowd stuff. People that do crowd stuff that suck at it, it's the worst thing. And they're the reason people are afraid to sit in the front row.
Yeah.
I don't want to be made fun of. Well, Jimmy Pardo, I don't want to sit in the front row. He attacks you. Do I? Listen to what I've actually said.
Yeah.
Nothing hurtful.
No.
But they saw a guy who didn't know how to do it attack them.
100%.
And by the way, my example was, why are you wearing flip-flops, which may be an attack. So, take what I say with a grain of salt.
There are harsher attacks.
Right? Who cares?
It's really... Look
Right?
at the guy with the hat. Is that a bit that people do? That sounds like a bad observational bit. Although I feel like I've seen some good people do bad bits. It happens every once in a while.
You can do good stuff on hats.
I mean, but if it's just look at the guy with the hat, that's all I'm saying. If that's your only
If that's your-
observation. I'm trying to give you a bad example.
Although
Good example of bad.
I will do that, but for humor, I'll go. I go. There's that guy in the hat.
Yeah, no,
and then
that's
just keep
fine.
going. Right? That's just
Funny.
stupid.
But that is an instinctive word choice thing, though. Like, you instinctively know that word. I don't want to get too mechanical; it gets too annoying to people. But that's an instinctive word choice. You know that saying it in that exact way is funny as shit.
Right.
That's an example of what Jimmy Pardo does. Everybody. Some silence here for a second.
Okay. Room tone. We're getting room tone.
Sure. Not just because I wanted it to be awkward. Thank you so much for doing this. This has been fun.
I will apologize to you on your own show for how long it took to get this in the books.
It's nobody's fault.
No,
Who gives a shit?
you know what?
Like, you're a busy man.
Busy people.
You are busy people.
But your persistency, I'm glad that you stayed.
Thank you. Say that to so-and-so's agent. I won't say who that person was. I bitched about him on Facebook the other day.
Did you really?
Yeah, somebody's agent really shit on me.
Oh, they didn't like how persistent you were?
Yeah. Every other agent, though, that I've ever been that persistent with has been like, oh, thanks for checking in.
I think, as a guy that books a podcast as well, I know there are times where you have to be, and I don't like it. I don't like doing it.
No, of course not.
You know when you're writing Jimmy Pardo for the 15th time that there's a chance that I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself.
Sure.
But it's kind of like, hey, if this is going to happen, I got to remind you to have it happen. Of
course.
I'm speaking the obvious. Anyway, I'm glad that you did, because it also forced me to start listening to your show, which I think is great.
Thank you.
And I look forward to listening to more of them.
Thank you.
And then get ready for the Pardo bump, because you're going to get a lot of listeners on this.
I hope so.
And so to those people, I apologize for you hearing the same 3 stories I've told about my childhood over and over and over.
Yeah, I know that is one thing about podcasts. I feel bad for anybody who's a guest who I can tell they've had to tell the story before, although seemed fresh to me.
But you know what? That said,
I don't know.
I have since stopped although as I just apologized, I've since stopped apologizing, because the goal is you have X amount of listeners that don't know who the fuck I am.
100%.
And so if they get to hear that story for the first time...
Yeah, I mean, that's my show. Sort of depends on people not knowing who either the guest is or who the album is. That's the point.
Well, this is 2 for 2. That's not fair to Richard Lewis. I took him down with me for no reason whatsoever.
Where can people find you?
Oh, thank you. I don't know when you're releasing this.
I can probably do it this week.
It doesn't have to be. You could hold it. I have Podcastathon coming up.
Oh, when is that?
On the 28th of November.
Okay.
It's the day after Thanksgiving. It is the 12-hour marathon version of my podcast.
Benefits Smile Train.
It benefits Smile Train, exactly. And which is the great organization that goes to third world countries. And for $250 and 45 minutes, they fix cleft palates. And you can change a child's life for as little as $250. And so for 12 hours, we do basically a telethon, which again goes back to my childhood of watching the Jerry Lewis telethons for 3 straight days and trying to figure out who's going to come out at, hey, Steve and Edie at 3:30 in the morning.
Right.
And loving it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's jugglers who aren't that great at 6 in the morning, you know? So, but this is, you know, as you look around, we're in my studio. These are the people that have done it in past years.
They're insane.
Great people. It's a new guest every 20 to 30 minutes for 12 hours. And last year we raised $144,000.
Good God.
And so we've raised close to $500,000, if not over $500,000 for Smile Train so far. So that is my...
How long have you been doing it?
Since 2009.
Oh, yeah, I should have just looked on the fucking
Yeah.
wall. That's amazing.
So that's my November. It's all about that. And... did that help get me on this show today? Yes, it did, Jason. I got to get the word out. But I appreciate you having me on.
Of course.
It was great fun.
Twitter is...
Jimmy Pardo.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Anywhere else?
JimmyPardo.com.
JimmyPardo.com.
And of course the podcast Never Not Funny.
And of course
which is
Funny.
the 12-hour version.
Yes.
Is the weekly Never Not Funny.
Right. Awesome.
Great.
Thank you for doing that.
My honor. Thank you.
Thank you guys for listening, and as always, have a good thing. Comedy on Vinyl is a production of Stolen Dress Entertainment. It is produced by Mike Warden and is hosted and edited by Jason Klamm. Our theme song was composed and performed by Richard Levinson. Please visit stolendress.com to listen to our other podcasts, read our blogs, read our tweets, watch our videos, and read our books. Please subscribe on iTunes, and if you like us, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. You can find us on facebook.com/comedyonvinyl, Twitter @comedyonvinyl, and find everything else at comedyonvinyl.com.